Today is Saturday, December 28, 2024. My name is Hunter. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. We're tracking a tornado outbreak likely to unfold across the deep south today. Severe weather continuing into Sunday across the east, and historically cold temperatures potentially into early January, the likes of which we haven't seen since 2019 winter or the 2021 winter. So something that we're going to continue to watch as we move into January, and we're going to break down in this forecast. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Check back often for updates, as we're going to be providing updates each and every day for you right here on this channel. Make sure to give the video a like down below. Also, leave any comments, questions, concerns below. I definitely appreciate it. Let's look at the storm reports from yesterday on Friday, December 27th, 2024. We did actually have 5 tornado reports across mostly southern Mississippi, and that was a mini tornado outbreak compared to what we were expecting as we go into today. Here's the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center for today, December 28th, 2024. There is a level 4 upgrade to a moderate risk of severe weather stretching from far east Texas through central Louisiana and into south central Mississippi and far southwestern Alabama. This does include the metropolitan area of Jackson, Mississippi as well. This could include the potential for hurricane force wind gusts 75 miles per hour or greater, including the Jackson region. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. And there could be some hail, quarter size or larger, from Dallas stretching into Shreveport, Jackson, Lake Charles down to New Orleans, and even as far east there as the Mobile area as well. Let's break down the tornado threat with some of the communities here. Starting from west to east, looking here at East Texas. If you're in the Longview area down here to Lufkin, the northeastern side of the Houston Metroplex, you might want to be on high alert for some tornado potential that could be strong. These could be strong tornadoes, EF2 to EF5 strength here. Wherever you see these dashed lines, you have at least a 10% chance of seeing that. Into Louisiana, Shreveport, down here to Ruston, Monroe, Alexandria, Leesville, into the Lake Charles region, into Lafayette, Baton Rouge, Hammond. You all have a chance of a strong tornado today. Moving into Mississippi, Vicksburg up to Greenville, Greenwood, Starkville, Jackson, Mississippi there, into Meridian, into Natchez, into Macomb, into Hattiesburg, Biloxi. You guys all have a chance of a strong tornado today, EF2 to EF5 strength, so make sure you are on high alert for that. And then moving into Alabama, this is into the Tuscaloosa area, Birmingham, down here just to the west of Montgomery and Greenville, all the way down into Mobile. You want to be on high alert for, again, a strong tornado, EF2 to EF5 strength. And even the tornado threat reaches as far east as the Atlanta area, as far north as the Chattanooga and Nashville region, keeping an eye on that. Let's break down the setup here. The stage is set. You can see dew points are rising into the 60s this afternoon, even some middle and upper 60s the closer you get to the Gulf of Mexico. So that's some pretty juicy air, and that will provide storm energy. And think of the dew point temperatures as storm fuel, because those convective available potential energy values are going to be up into the 2,000, even 3,000 joules per kilogram range. And that's pretty strong instability for late December standards. And we're also going to be coinciding that with a very strong low-level jet out of the south and west, screaming in over 60 knots here in some of these areas this afternoon and this evening, approaching 70 knots. So that is some pretty intense low-level jet stream winds, and that's going to help those storms organize and help those storms rotate here and produce those strong tornadoes this afternoon and into this evening. Let's break down the timing with the radar. This afternoon, we got that squall line here setting up from East Texas up into northwest Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, and northwest Mississippi. Some of those storms extending up into western Tennessee as well. We got to watch these cells out ahead of the main line. Those could be the ones to pose the strong tornado risk, as they are semi-discrete. They can take up a lot more energy here than the line of storms, but we also have to keep an eye on the line of storms. We could have some tornadoes on the leading edge of that as well. And then going into this evening, again, we got that line of storms with its own right, with damaging winds, large hail, and some embedded tornadoes. But ahead of the main line, we have those discrete and semi-discrete supercells That could rotate here into eastern Mississippi, into western, and eventually central Alabama here as we go into the evening. That line of storms will continue to progress to the east early Sunday morning. So now we're talking about after midnight here into Nashville, into Crossville, over here towards Knoxville, into places like Chattanooga, Atlanta. So we're going to be keeping an eye on you as well, further to the north and east with a damaging wind, hail threat there, as well as a couple of tornadoes. And then looking at the Sunday threat, this is for Sunday, December 29th, 2024. There's a level 2 out of 5, slight risk of severe weather extending from Virginia all the way back down into Georgia and eastern Alabama. And severe weather with a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk extending up into southeastern portions of Ohio and southwest Pennsylvania and as far south as North Florida. So we have another threat for damaging winds, 60 to 70 miles per hour, especially in this yellow shaded color from Virginia down here toward Georgia and Alabama. And we have a smaller chance of some quarter-size hail or larger here in the brown shaded color from southwest Virginia all the way down here toward Alabama and Georgia. And then we have a large area of tornado potential in the green. You have a 2% chance of tornadoes, and the 5% chance of tornadoes is in the brown here from around the Raleigh area and central North Carolina down toward Columbia and Greenville, South Carolina here into eastern portions of Georgia. Keeping an eye on you folks for the tornado potential as we go into Sunday. Here we go with the setup again. Dew point temperatures rising to near 60 degrees. Yes, near 60 degrees all the way up into Virginia. This is going to provide some instability, at least further south you go, but the lack of instability further north is going to be taken up by that low-level jet. So even though your instability values aren't that high, for example, in West Virginia or North Carolina, that will compensate as we have that strong low-level jet over 60 knots here in those areas, and a strongly forced line here of some severe thunderstorms will be moving across portions of the southeast into the western Carolinas already Sunday morning. 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. Sunday afternoon we'll be moving across Virginia into the outer banks of North and South Carolina, and some rogue storms down into places like Savannah, Georgia, here into the Jacksonville region Sunday afternoon. And then finally, we start to see those storms weaken as they move offshore as we go into Sunday evening here, and that will leave us with a quieter weather pattern behind that as we go into Monday. Looking at the rest of the country as far as our temperatures and weather pattern is concerned, here are your temperatures for this afternoon. These are your highs. Getting into the 50s in the lakefront there in Chicago at 51, 58 in St. Louis, 54 in Kansas City, and 56 in Lincoln, Nebraska. Warmer to the south, that's why we have all that severe weather, near 70s into the Gulf Coast states. Sunday morning, very mild start across the east here as the cold front is yet to move through. We're going to see lows in the mid-50s in Kentucky, so the Lexington, Richmond area only seeing 56 for a low there. 55 for a low in Nashville, 56 there into the portions of Chattanooga and Knoxville, 55 as well in Atlanta, and those temperatures will rise into the 60s up there into Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, here the 70s in the parts of eastern Carolinas, down into Georgia and Florida as we go into Sunday. Some colder air to the north, but really not overly so. Into North Dakota here, northwest Minnesota, temperatures on Sunday afternoon in the upper 20s to low 30s. Pretty bearable for late December standards. Looking at the weather pattern for Saturday, we have all that severe weather we talked about down to the south here for today. We have the snowfall continuing to remain in place across the Pacific Northwest today as well. On Sunday, we have more of that across the west, so the Sierras, the Cascades, and the Rockies really getting some pretty heavy snow. A lot of rain here across portions of Indianapolis towards Detroit and Chicago as we go into Sunday. Keeping an eye on that. Soaking rain, some severe weather across the east on Sunday as well. And then once we get into Monday next week, we got a mini low pressure system here into the Missouri Valley, Central Plains that could bring us a mix of rain and snow here. And it'll be a lighter system bringing more rain across the Ohio Valley. Maybe a little bit of snow from Milwaukee back toward Madison and even the Quad Cities in Iowa as we go into Tuesday, New Year's Eve. Something to watch there. Here's the precipitation as we go between now and Tuesday, New Year's Eve on December 31st, 2024. Heaviest rains from Quebec, Ontario, all the way back here toward East Texas. We could be seeing a swath of around 1 to 3 inches of rainfall here, and then a swath of around 1 to 3 inches or more potentially across western Washington State, western Oregon, and northern California as well. Bone dry in Arizona, southern California, southern Nevada here into New Mexico, and West Texas, bone dry between now and New Year's Eve. Looking here at the snowfall accumulation, it's mainly the mountain ranges out across the northwest, so the Cascades, some of the northern Sierras, the northwest Rockies here, going to be seeing a couple feet of snow, maybe some smaller clipper systems across the Midwest toward the Great Lakes that could drop an inch or two of snow as we go between now and New Year's Eve, mainly on grassy surfaces. And looking here at the winter storm severity index for your travel concerns, taking you into New Year's Eve, if you have any New Year's Eve travel plans, make sure to take it slow out here across the Pacific Northwest. Definitely going to be very slick here, especially in those higher elevations where you see these reds. That is for sure. Now we're looking at a major pattern change as we go into early January. Wednesday, January 1st on New Year's Day through Monday, January 6th. Trough really starting to deepen here off the East Coast. We got blocking up here in Greenland and north of the Hudson Bay. More blocking up here into the Gulf of Alaska and even western Canada. And that's going to force some of that colder air further south. Now the source region is really starting to chill out here as we go into the first 6 days of the month of January. Look at these pinks and purples. Those are temperatures in Yukon, British Columbia, into the Northwest Territories, into Alberta and Saskatchewan that are 30 to 40 degrees below the norm for this time of year. And you compare that over here to Quebec, where that ridge is here in towards Greenland and Hudson Bay region, Quebec, with temperatures 40 degrees above normal here. So that's the blocking mechanism. And looking at the active weather pattern, very active for the Pacific Northwest, very active across the north here, and that'll extend further to the east. We could actually see some heavier snowstorms as that colder air starts to infiltrate portions of the northern United States, and some of that could stick to the pavement as well. So maybe our first snowstorm across parts of our Midwestern regions like Iowa, Nebraska, northern Illinois for the season, at least significant snowstorm, will be on the table the first few days of January. Heading into the second week or so of January, Monday, January 6th through Friday, January 10th, big ridge of high pressure over the top here in Canada, and that's going to allow a massive bowl or a trough to develop across the central and eastern U.S. And look at the cold air. This could be historically cold across the central and eastern U.S. We haven't seen since potentially 2019 and the 2021 winter here, where we could see temperatures 50 degrees below normal across the middle of the country. And just to look at the worst case scenario, if that did unfold into the second week of January, those wind chill values in places like the Dakotas could be 50 to 55 degrees below zero. Into portions of the Midwest like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, portions of Iowa, Illinois, into Missouri could be 40 to 45 degrees below zero with our wind chills into that second week of January. Best case scenario here, it's still going to be cold, but maybe not nearly as cold, with wind chill values still below zero, maybe teens to 20s below zero in the Midwest, with more 30 to 40 below zero up there toward North Dakota and northern Minnesota. That would be the best case scenario as we go into the second week of January. Overall, that cold air coming in, Arctic air is dry air, so that's going to push a lot of that storm track further to the east across the eastern United States and eastern Canada, and that could give us a nor'easter setup where we could have some very heavy snow across Maine down here into northeast Pennsylvania. That could set up in feet of snow as we go during that second week of January toward the 10th time frame. Something to definitely keep an eye on as we go further into the month of January. We'll keep you updated here on this channel. Subscribe to the channel for the latest weather information 24/7. Check back often for updates. Like the video by giving it a thumbs up down below. Leave any comments, questions, concerns below. We'll get to those after the video. Share this video with friends, family, anybody that you know on social media. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their weekend out there.